Welcome back. This is Kevin Johnson of Leverage Consulting, and you are listening to the Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast number 25. And the title or the theme of this podcast is about the current state of affairs with excuses and success. And interestingly enough, if you watch social or pay attention to social media, if you watch the news, if you listen to some people, you will think that everything within our world is circling the drain. To quote a very good friend that I used to work with for many years, but you would think that listening and watching so many things within social media or the news or what have you, that things are just circling the drain. And I think that brings on just a plethora, if there's your big word for the day, but it brings on a plethora of excuses with why things won't happen. And, things I tend to find and COVID has certainly made things different this year. And I'm sure some of you have strong opinions about that, but the fact is it has changed the economic environment for 2020 for sure. We don't know what's going to happen in 2021. And, well, we might say that's actually part of the fun part of this, is we don't know. It's certainly not been boring. But we can use things that COVID has changed things. It's changed things for restaurants. It's changed things for stores. It's changed things for travel. It has changed things for education. I could go on and on and on. But then those things ripple into other things. And then I run into or work with employers that they say, we can't find good people. And when they say that, they act as if there is not one good employee in all of the metropolitan area that I live in. Or there is not one good employee, because there are areas where I work with clients around the country where sometimes the team members will drive an hour and 15 minutes, sometimes a shade more, one way just to get to work. And sometimes that is you might think, well, they must live out in the country. And no, they could be a densely populated metropolitan area where it's just a really long commute that everyone accepts. But yes, the flip side is it could be people that live in Iowa or Nebraska or somewhere like that, and they're just used to, a 40-minute drive to go out for a gallon of milk or something. So we hear excuses like we can't find good employees. We hear that, it's tough. People don't want to do this. Clients don't want to do that. Patients don't want to do this. We've got this compounded with the election. And quite honestly, I really don't give a flying fig what side of the fence you're on or if you even know that there is a fence. That's not the point. It affects our economic environment. And then we have other things, like I said, that some of the things that I'm mentioning will have that ripple effect where if it then comes into our place of business, and we have things where, for example, if it's a real estate agent, and I'm sharing different examples because you may think, well, it's just me and my business or the microcosm that I work in, but pretty much everyone's had to find a way to adapt. And whether it's a real estate agent and people don't want to travel. So how does someone from the Northeast who wants to buy a house in North Carolina, how do they get to see that house if they can't travel or they refuse to travel? How do they get to see a house? Well, we adapt. We find ways. There are things called Zoom. There are things that are called FaceTime where we can go through and literally show someone a house. And crazy enough, we act like this is new, and it's not new. When we were in the housing boom in 2006, 7, and 8, guess what? People were buying houses sight unseen, and we didn't have things like Zoom back then. We figured it out. You also have things where parents might not be able to attend a consultation for a procedure for their child. Well, guess what? Again, we've got things, Zoom, we've got FaceTime, we've got phone calls. We can find ways to accommodate. We have parents that are having to find ways to accommodate, helping basically homeschool their kids with Zoom going on. And Zoom is not the theme of this, but it certainly comes up a lot. But we have found ways to adapt. So even if you're saying, I can't find good employees, well, there's a couple of different things that we need to think about. One is, are you looking for the same group of people? Are you running the same old tired ads? Are you doing it in the same place? Are you doing anything to differentiate yourself? Because it's interesting when I look at employers' ads from time to time, it's interesting. I read them, and there's nothing really any different from the other 14 ads on the board or wherever it is that they're posting. There's really oftentimes nothing that differentiates them. And then the question becomes, how good of an interview process do we have? So are things different? Absolutely. And the funny part is, again, we can use the election as an excuse. Well, guess what, guys? Think of how old you are. We have presidential elections every 4 years. Nothing new. This is not like something that just crawled out of the woodwork and created problems for all of us. We knew it was coming, and it's here. So we find ways to work around these things. And this is what I consider to be, when we start thinking about the excuses, and I understand we're all human beings, and I understand that there are times when we need to vent. But as in the last podcast I had, there's a difference between a one-time event, meaning I blow off some steam and I comment on COVID or the state of affairs with COVID or the election or whatever it is. It's not about the one event. It's about the body of work. It is about the culmination of events, the accumulation of this stuff, because then it becomes a crutch that we stand on. And at some point, we tend to either come to accept it ourselves, or we're teaching the people around us that this is acceptable. The excuses are acceptable for lack of result. And true entrepreneurs, or people who are really persistent, they just don't give up. We find a way. It's not a matter of, and it's interesting, when I started consulting 20-some years ago, early on, I was standing in, I think, BWI Airport, and I was trying to find something to read to kill time on my way wherever I was going. And I'm just reading jackets of books, trying to find something that would pique my interest. And there was one, and I have zero idea, don't remember at all what book it was, or I think it's something management related. But it talked about an ancient philosophy about, and some of you may know this, so if you know it, comment, post it in the comment section. But the philosophy was that one way, shape, or form, it might have been an old Japanese proverb or something, but essentially that a stream and water will find its way to the ocean. One way, shape, or form, it will find its way to the ocean. It will flow around a rock, over a rock, under a log, some way, shape, or form, that water that's in that stream will find its way to the ocean. And that's what true entrepreneurs and true persistent individuals, you don't need to be an owner, you don't need to be a manager, you might not even be in business at all. It could just be, I spoke to someone, I think it was about a year and a half ago, and she had 2 autistic children. And she sat there and explained to me all the things that she had done over time to make a phenomenal life for her 2 children. And these are 2 children that required a lot of attention based off of what she explained, which means other things are going to take, they're going to go to the back burner. So, she explained all these things that she had done for her children. And I was thinking to myself, if you could do that, and overcome all these obstacles in something that literally requires such persistence, you can do anything. And I know some of you have similar things in your own life where you may underestimate what you've done, but it may be the very thing that demonstrates that you are capable of doing pretty much anything. So what I would recommend you do is put those excuses in park, because again, it's your future, and if the excuses are getting in the way of your future, you need to find your way around it. And if you don't know how to get around it, it's either time on your own and persistence in how to get there, or you find someone who's going to help you get there. Because one way, shape, or form, if you want it bad enough, you will make it happen. There are people right now that are having phenomenal months, phenomenal years. Now, yes, the COVID shutdown for many of the states definitely did affect some annual performance, but there are some that have already made it up for the year. There are some that are on their way to make it up for the year. Some of them have had gaps in their total productivity for the year that would account for like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they've cut that number in half, or they've cut that number down to a much, much, much smaller number to where we're not ahead or equal to last year, but we're not that far behind. So think about those excuses and think about how much they're truly limiting your future, and how much not only is it affecting you, but the people who are around you who are there to help leverage you and help make you better. So that, my friends, was a Resilient Entrepreneur podcast number 25. Tune in. I've got more great material coming for you.